Tara, I'm going to stick with you. Both my partner and I are in this industry. We've both supported each other at times, but I have a more understanding workplace than his. He needs help from work, but doesn't think that his boss will support him as there's just too much on at the moment. How can he approach this?
The first thing that comes up to me is, what is it that's making your partner feel like the boss won't support him? Like, has there actually been a conversation? Because sometimes we can make assumptions about other people, or we can make decisions on their behalf because we haven't actually asked them. And the reality is it's only through us communicating that we're going to have the real answer. So, you know, my first thought would be to explore actually having a conversation with the boss about, you know, what kind of capacity is there for support, and what would support practically look like. You know, what do you actually need? Is it time off? Is it an assistant? Is it, you know, whatever it may be, right? Then in the event that that's already been done and basically they got shut up and keep going with your work type comment, then the next thing that kind of came to my mind was the way that we support people who are experiencing domestic violence. And what we suggest to people is to, in a safe way and almost like a secretive way, you can engage in some subtle acts of defiance. And so what that means is it's not about, you know, sabotaging the company, because that's not going to help anyone. It's about you going, all right, so if they expect me to, you know, answer 25 emails every hour, well, I'm only going to look at, you know, 20 of them. Or, you know, I will set aside 15 minutes every hour to just focus on emails. Or, you know, setting yourself some really helpful and healthy boundaries within yourself to be able to then manage the situation more effectively. Because outside of, you know, potentially leaving the position, in some ways, you know, I'm learning a little bit more about that there doesn't seem to be as much legality in this industry in terms of what's required from an employer, and you know, what you can and can't do as an employer. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts.
I like that. Lindsay?
Yeah, I just need to probably understand what is too much on at the moment mean more so. My wife is in the same industry. We actually used to work in the same agency. She's a designer. I'm art director. Well, she's art director as well, but two different personalities. I'm not outspoken, but I wouldn't fear just chatting and asking. She's kind of an introvert, so it worked the other way. And she used to do a lot of ruminating about what people might feel if she asks or doesn't deliver a certain level of job. So that's led me to the too much on at the moment. What is that? Is that a personal approach to how much work you think you need to deliver? Or is it that there's literally a blindness from everyone around you saying you must deliver all of this? I'm going to go with that it could be the former, that you're probably putting pressure on yourself to deliver. It's a real innate fear if we work in creative, particularly, that you just want to constantly prove yourself. You know, if you want to sell work to the client and keep the client happy, you're constantly trying to do like originality, output. And what we fall into these days is quantity. It's like, it's no longer TV ad, radio ad, outdoor press ad. Times that by 30 because of all the different channels, all the different audiences, all the different segments, all the different goes on. We're expected to do that amount in the same amount of time that old campaigns used to be done in. So the approach to this would be, is that I've actually employed this year, don't tell anyone, is do less. By that I mean is quality over quantity. Find out what's expected. Is the client going to be happy with just 2 directions instead of 3 or 4? And if we show them some top line ideas and we just sell it better, we can make these better than what they would have ever seen before. They've just seen quantity. So for me, that's the first point I would be looking at as far as feeling like you've got to do too much, and talk to the boss about that if it's a good relationship. That's my start point.
I really like that. I was having this conversation like a few hours ago, which was like, why are we still presenting so many ideas? So many concepts, so many things that, you know, and because it's a concept and because it gets put down and because it gets presented, you overcraft it because it's still you. And, you know, it's going to get ditched. Like most of them going to get ditched, which is really hard to kind of accept. The other thing, and I'm going to share a little bit of, we're doing research around empathy at the moment. And this is quite I guess a disappointing finding so far, which is that the reason people believe that there are the barriers to empathy, 80% of people thought it was time. We don't have time for empathy. And I think there's some things that actually we can just, like, we're lucky that we can actually just go, you know what, we can make time for empathy. We can make time to have that chat. And I think back to what you said, Tara, like there's also an interesting concept around the perception gap, right? It might be that that you're saying, a bit like what you said, Lindsay, like you don't think that someone is going to be able to support you through this, and you won't know until you ask. And sure, maybe there's some precedent with somebody else, but you also don't know the context behind the discussion or the relationship that they've had, which led to, you know, an outcome that was different for somebody else. So I think it's a good one to get over, is the perception gap. And if you haven't taken it yet, here is the link for the empathy survey. There's some really interesting results which we're getting back at the moment. So go check that out and share it, please, with your networks would be great.